What will the world look like in an SHTF situation, or a without rule of law? Or, as some people say it, the end of the world as we know it, Teotihuacan, right? We don't know, right? What will our country look like, whether that's the United States or Canada or Australia or the UK or European Union or other countries where you are, if things suddenly hit the air circulation device, what will things look like? We don't know. But what we can look at is we can look at what do things look like in failed states currently. And I have a little bit of experience in failed states, living there, seeing how the power structure works, and also I've done quite a bit of reading too. So I just want to give you some general broad principles of what often happens in an SHTF situation when the government pulls back or when the government falls apart. You know, what can we possibly expect, and also like what can you kind of anticipate? Because certain things kind of happen, and certain structures are the things that are first that kind of pop up. Okay, so first thing first, if you have the idea that suddenly when the government collapses, that everyone's going to suddenly be each to their own, everyone's going to be left alone, no one's going to be doing anything in your area, you can get rid of those thoughts. That's not realistic. That doesn't happen. When one government collapses, another government rises. So your federal government in your country may collapse, the national level, but oftentimes what will happen is some hybrid system of the local government will actually take over. So a lot of times what we see, like in Afghanistan and Syria even, people start getting tribal. Now, for the United States, it is a unique situation, same thing with Canada, where you don't have people rooted to the land quite so much. And even like the UK is much more tribal. Australia is, from what I gather, kind of similar to the United States and Canada, where it's not like you've been there for so long. But I think if I read right, Australians are a little more rooted. But, you know, take that for what it's worth. People start to break up into tribes. So basically the power brokers at the local level tend to be people who are already in local government or who already are being national representatives for the local area. So basically, like, to put this in America's context, like congressmen or senators might actually go back to their home states and actually become basically like warlords. They would actually head up things. Second thing is, so a form of government will be established. When that happens, if you try to do your own thing, if you get noticed, you will get stomped down. You will be brought into line with the system. The idea that you're just going to be left alone by everybody is that just doesn't happen. Okay, whichever area, whichever group you fall inside their borders, they will come for their taxes. And if you do not kind of kiss the ring and bow the knee, they will bring you to heel. And you say, well, I can stop anyone who comes after me. Listen, if you have a tribal system organizing, and usually what happens is the reason why they're organizing tribally is because they're basically fighting against the tribe next to them, the tribes next to them. They may be part of, your tribe may be forming part of a coalition with other tribes, and that's kind of like an army. But the main thing they're trying to do is raise an army. And when they're raising an army, they will have forces to come after you with. And if you're causing trouble, they will squash you. Because the idea of freedom, the idea of independence tends to be rather contagious. So oftentimes these local governments will come down hard on people who buck the system. Now, you may be able to keep your head low. You may be able to kind of make the right noises, and if you can keep your pride in check, you might be able to be left alone for the most part. But that's iffy. As with all these things, this is just pure speculation, right? We can just look at history. We can look at other countries and see what this looks like. But you can anticipate a local kind of tribal government over you. They tend to be in the tens to hundreds of thousands of people. That's kind of usually about the size of a tribe. And that's about as much as they can manage, given, because they have to exert direct control over the population, right? Depending on how sparse a population center it is, that is something you should expect. Second thing is, you may find yourself, it may be very advantageous for you to play ball in local politics, because all the benefits at the federal level, there's going to be a lot of the benefits at the local level. If you are influencing the policy of what's happening, you will be able to have much more control over your life. But if you step out of line, the idea of a Bill of Rights, the idea of a constitution, usually in these type of governments, is just not a thing. Generally, it's run by a kind of a warlord or a single dictator, and they form this structure because it is the most efficient form of government. It is the most simple and the most efficient form of government. And in warfare, you need an efficient form of government. And if things break down, people are looking for protection, and they will turn over their allegiance to someone who makes promises to them and can actually deliver. Someone who makes promises and can't deliver will get their head thumped by the next guy who can actually deliver and form an army and actually defend the people, right? So this is probably what you're looking at. At the very outset, you need to be very, very careful, because what will happen oftentimes is that there will be a bunch of local groups that form. I would advise at the very outset for you to stay neutral. You need to bend with the wind, but stay neutral. Do not strongly support anyone. You need to see how the dust settles, because if you pick the wrong side on one of these tribal disputes, bad things happen to you. Again, there's no like Geneva Convention or anything like that. Oftentimes in these types of civil wars, if you support the wrong people and your side loses, you may be forcibly evicted from your homes in the best case scenario and forced to leave, possibly work in work camps, or just flat out executed. This is what happens. So if you stay neutral and you kind of start to build a little bit of a positive relationship with several potentials, but then don't go all in on any of them, kind of tell them, like, if you can get more control, I'll be on your side, but you're kind of waiting things out. It's a dangerous game to play, but it's really dangerous to pick a winner and if they lose. Okay, so this is kind of how things work. Once you have a dictator or a local power warlord, they will have an efficient government. They can make the decisions. If there's an important decision that needs to be made, they go straight to that person and they will just make the decision. There won't be a Congress involved or whatever. But if somebody accuses you of something, okay, and they take that to the chief, hey, so-and-so said this about you, or so-and-so is forming some kind of opposition to you. They may come down on you hard without even asking whether it's true or not. So you got to watch yourself for enemies. If you create enemies, that can be a very dangerous thing, especially in a dictatorship. So you need to be very careful about not making waves, not making enemies. Okay, so just be that person that just is nice to everybody. Okay, make friends with everybody, but not too nice of friends, because you don't want to be seen as allied with a certain person, because people that don't like that person may see you as an enemy. You need to make sure that you're playing your politics and balancing things out, and you just, if you help these guys out over here and you know that they're against those guys over there, you need to make sure you go over and do a little bit for them too. And you need to make sure that you're open to everybody and play this way. When I was working over in the Afghanistan region, that's what we had to do. We had to make everyone happy, and we had to show everyone that we were just making life better for everybody. Okay, that we were just there to help the people, that we weren't there to play politics. We were just helping people, and that we were good citizens, and that we were, doing our part. So that's what you got to do. That's what I've seen. I've seen that dynamic working in Syria. I've seen that dynamic working in Tajikistan, Afghanistan. See that dynamic a bit in Pakistan. In India, you got a lot more brokers, but it's a very similar system. And from what I've read about Africa and such like that, a lot of these places, it's a similar kind of system. You just got to kiss the ring to everybody. You got to bend with the wind. People need to know that you're going to be a reasonable person. That when they take control, when they do a coup against the other guy, they need to know that you're not going to make a fuss. That when you see that, the wind has shifted, that you're going to be willing to bend with it. Now, I'm not saying that you need to bend your morals. I'm not saying that you need to do wrong. But when it comes to politics and who you're supporting, and, right now your loyalty may be to your country very, very strongly. You need to disabuse yourself of that, because patriots who are dedicated to one person or one form of government that may rise and fall at the local level, that's how you end up dead. Okay. And if you're trying to protect you and yours, you need to be known as a person of reason, a reasonable person. Okay. Because then they will at least feel like they can try to reason with you. If they know that you're not going to bend, they won't come and talk to you. They will just march out there and deal with you. Okay. Be known as a reasonable person. They will at least try to talk to you before they come out and march against you, right? And at least you have some heads up of what's about to go down. Build local contacts. You need information sources. With everyone that you're kind of making goods with, you need to find people that will at least kind of be your back channels, so that, kind of the power brokers behind the scenes, or people who think they are, that can feed you some information to kind of let you know a little bit of what's kind of going on. Okay. And you kind of need those relationships. You need to be able to not just have direct line relationships to the top people, because oftentimes they're extremely busy. You want to find people just below them or who are involved in that circle that can, you can contact and say, hey, what's up? What's going on? I haven't heard anything about what's going on, and there's all this going on. And if they don't get back to you, then you could be a little worried, because maybe it's directed towards you, right? Or if they get back to you, oh, we're going after so-and-so over there because they're just being really difficult, or we're getting ready to go have a major fight with another tribe or something like that, or there's an operation that's going to start here in the spring and we're getting ready for that. We need you to be a part of that. We need you to get some of your folks to come out here and be part of that operation or whatever. Or we need you to cover some of our bases or communications, or we need some more medical supplies for that. Or, we know you have some food, we need some more food. So that's just kind of how the world works. You need to scratch other people's backs. If you think that you can just hole up and hide in the ground, that may work for a little bit, but if you become a nuisance to anybody, if you start giving other people ideas that they can maybe just opt out of whatever's going on, that usually doesn't go well for those folks. And if you're a very popular person, okay, If a lot of people in a large amount of area like what you say and what you do because they know that you're a moderating force and they like that you kind of blunt some of what's going on. If the dictator's like doing this and that, and it's very extreme, and you know at those kind of meetings you're bold to kind of stand up and say, I see what you're saying with that. Is it possible we can maybe consider doing this? And just nudge things in the right direction. Make sure you're openly supporting whatever they're doing, because otherwise you end up dead. But try to nudge things a little bit to make sure that it doesn't impact people quite so much. If you're popular, it becomes hard for those dictators to summarily execute you. Okay. If they try to imprison you and then a whole bunch of people are like, hey, we really like that guy or that gal, like, please don't do that to that person. Please just let them go. They're not a threat. They're not against you. So you have a lot of people speaking up for you. Now, how do you get a lot of people speaking up for you when it counts? Is you need to speak up for them when it counts for them. Okay. So that's the short of it. That's the real short of it. That's my experience. That's of a number of places, and from a lot of the history I've read and a lot of the aid work and such, a lot of the power broking in Afghanistan in the 90s that I've read a lot about. I've done a lot of reading. Okay, and I'm a big, huge history buff. So that's where I'm kind of drawing a lot of the stuff from, just the kind of feel for it. I know the movies portray all sorts of things, but this is kind of what usually happens, okay? So you may absolutely, completely disagree with me, and that's what the comment section is for. Please be civil, but if you have different understandings, if you have different experiences, please share them. But we just want to help people kind of think through what will happen, because I think a lot of people are putting out some really false notions. Unless you have a pretty large group that you can push back pretty strongly against anyone who kind of comes your way, if you're a big enough, a hard enough nut that it's hard for them to crack, and they know it's going to take a lot to kind of knock over your group, that and combined with that you are a little bit of a player with them, and you're not causing trouble for them, okay? Then you might be able to have a little more independence, but they're still gonna probably want you to kiss the ring if you're within their territory. So just things to think through. I know that's not very popular. A lot of people have ideas of starting their own little fiefdom and having complete control over their lives and everyone's lives around them, and I don't see it. I haven't seen it like that in other parts of the world. Usually you don't have such small governments like Somalia, warlords, and pretty large chunks. Afghanistan, same thing. Tajikistan after the Civil War, same thing. Pakistan, same thing. You have the tribal leaders there. Syria, even during the Civil War, broke up into factions and tribal areas like that as well. Even the Kurdish Syrian forces kind of broke up into different groups that had different control of different areas. Usually that's how it works. So this isn't going to be a popular video, I know, but hopefully it's a helpful one. Just be realistic about how things actually go, okay? And play politics a little bit as needed to keep yourselves and your nose clean. All right, Steve Poplar, out.